me again. It's another cold day outside, so I'm going to take a little break to make another video here to talk about what I'm going to be doing with Ada. Now, Ada's going to be my personal demo dog. As you also know, I'm going to be keeping a puppy back as well, but the puppy I'm going to be training for sport. So she's going to be learning very specific types of training, but Ada's going to be my personal dog. She's going to be my little demo dog and everything else, and I'm going to be using her for my own utilities, and one of those is going to be a deer tracker next year. Now, it's illegal to hunt with dogs, but in some states it's perfectly okay to track a down deer with the dog if you're going to lose that game. Now, we've all been there, us deer hunters, where the deer comes, there's still a little bit of sunlight, you don't get the proper shot, or you do get the shot, but they run away, and then you start tracking the blood. And then at some point that blood dissipates, and you have no idea where that deer is. The sun's coming down, and it's just a matter of time before you lose that work that you've been putting all year into. So, like in the state of Missouri, you can use a dog. You have to call the conservation department, let them know, where you're at, that you're using a dog to track down the deer, and you can't have any firearms with you, or you could be misconstrued as hunting with a dog. So this is going to be blood tracking. So with Ada, I'm going to make a very specific training series on how to train a dog specifically for deer tracking. Now I'm going to be using dog bones, blood trail, and deer hide, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I set everything up. Now, I just start off with a simple, $5 sprayer from Walmart. Let me pull it out here. Just like this. And all the pieces. Now, I'll go through and put everything in place later. But right now, I'm just going to show you the importance of what we do to set everything up. Now, me personally, I use distilled water. You don't want to use tap water because they have chlorine and other chemicals in there that will get rid of some of the odor. Okay, so it's there to kill bacteria and things like that. So you don't want to use tap water because that can infiltrate, I guess, and do bad things to the odor that you're actually wanting. So I use store-bought distilled water because there's no chemicals or anything like that. So what I do is I will pour this about halfway, making a mess, in here. Okay, now I'm going to take my dog bone blood scent, shake it up, and I'm going to put maybe 5 to 10 drops in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, it's not a lot, but what happens is that blood will permeate and mix in there with the water. So this water will become a minutely odorous deer. Okay, so you can add more for younger dogs to make it more sensitive to the smell, I guess. But what I do is I just put a few drops in there just to give it a little bit of odor, and then I'll lay my tracks down because those water molecules will hold that odor a little bit longer than just going on and so forth. So I teach the dog to track with this, and I'll show you how to do that here in a minute. Another thing you can also do is you can take the deer hide from dog bone, or if you have your own deer, you can pre-soak this, you can roll this up and stick it in there as well, and let the water permeate with the hair follicles, the skin, the bacteria that is there naturally. So that way you have hair and everything else in there. Me personally, I just use the blood, and then I'll soak this to make it pliable, and I will wrap this around a tug or a reward item, and I'll put it at the end of the trail, which you'll see in later videos. But that's just an idea of what we get started with. So go ahead and get you like a $5 gallon sprayer, get you some dog bone blood trail, put some drops in there, make it ready to go, and we'll start the training here in a second.
Now I have her in the place command right off the side of the screen. Now I'm going to be laying down a track here, and this track is going to be deer blood scent, because I'm wanting her to focus and discriminate against that deer odor. And just trying to get it all lined up here, so whenever we start doing the training, she knows exactly what she's going to be searching for. So there we go. So give this a couple pumps and we'll lay the track, and we'll start working on Ada here. Place. Since Ada's a little bit older, I'm going to move these a little bit farther and go the distance.
I went off camera to take off my jacket and toboggan because it was getting a little warm this afternoon, so I went and changed, and then I moved the hot dog pieces a little bit. But I call Ada over. Now remember, this is her first time doing this, and so she's not focused. She's running around crazy. I'm trying to just get her to focus where my finger is and find the piece of hot dog, but she's not having it. I'm getting a little frustrated already. So I grab a piece of hot dog, get it right under her nose, and drop it. And that got her going a little bit. But notice how her front legs are straddling, but her back legs are off to one side. We want the dog to eventually have 2 legs on one side, 2 legs on the other. And off she goes again. Now, I'm making mental notes here of how many pieces she's skipping over. If she's skipping over pieces, they're too close. If she loses interest, then they're too far. So you have to make mental notes each time to figure out the spacing that keeps your dog engaged. Now, this is very first session, so we're working on odor conditioning as well as nose down behavior. Nose down behavior is simply keep your nose down on the ground, keep looking for that scent, and build up from there. So here what I do is I take a few more pieces, and we're going to do another round. Now, since she skipped over a few pieces and then got a little distracted on others, I'm kind of keeping these relatively close together to keep her focused, so that way she gets one treat, and if it's too far ahead, she'll lose focus. She's a Malinois, she's hyper. Now with labs and things like that, they're a little bit more calm. This won't be too much of a problem, but it's the same thought process for any dog that you train. You want them to be a little bit focused. You want them to be calm on the track and really focus on what they're doing. So the second time, notice she comes right up to it and starts. Her back end is still off to one side, but notice she's slowing down, she's moving forward, and she's not skipping very many treats. Now there she loses interest, so before she can really get distracted and come back and lose that track, I call her back over and I put her in the place command. Now, I'm going to try to use kibble, okay? So the kibble pieces are a little bit smaller. You have to be careful using kibble because it's hard, so whenever they get it in the mouth, they like to chomp down and chew a lot more. Now remember, you want high repetition on your rewards. That's why I like soft food like the cut up chicken logs or the hot dogs, because just 1 or 2 bites and they swallow. But these pieces of kibble are relatively small. This is the Pro Plan Sport one, so they're usually pretty small. You can barely see them here. but I'm using them just to test and evaluate what works and what doesn't. So now I put them about a fist width apart, so about 4 inches to 5 inches apart. And then once again, I'm going to make mental notes on how many pieces she's skipping, if she's getting hung up, and just seeing what I can work with that works for her. Now she breaks the place command. I tell her to place. She's already, starting, so I tell her to place again. She goes, and I finish laying the track. Now, if this was for like IPO or something, what I would do is I would spray just clean distilled water, and then I would put my feet on the water track and then set the track up that way. But here she's still off to one side. She's getting very distracted, but I'm just letting her work it out to see if she goes back to the track. Because keep in mind that water is infused with deer blood, so it's an interesting smell to her. And I'm just seeing if she'll stay on the track. Most people will guide them away and start from the beginning, but since this is her first session, I want her to realize, hey, if I stay on this track, I'll get those rewards. And here you're starting to see her straddle the line a little bit better. But that's all I'm doing here is just watching her to see how she reacts to that streamline and that track line. So I guide her off, and then I just walk her right back to it because there's so many pieces still there. And she kind of speeds up, goes off track, but she comes back to it every time. So it's a little frustrating, but what do you expect for the very first session? Some dogs will jump right on it, some won't. But for a Malinois, a young Malinois that's super drivey, super nervous, Ada had a pretty rough beginning, but I got her back and we're working on a lot of this stuff. But if you have a nervous dog or something and you train it for a job, then chances are it'll become more confident. So here she sees me laying the track, she breaks, I put her back into place, and I go back and I relay the track one more time. Now this time I'm separating them just a little bit more, once again just seeing how she reacts to different spacings, to different types of food rewards, and I'm just going to see exactly what she's doing, how she acts, how she behaves, and what her attitude is towards the odor. I'm getting there to the end. I'll rattle it to get her attention.
Are you ready? Come on.
And then I point and off she goes. So this is what, the third or fourth go through, and she's moving forward. She's starting to straddle it a little bit more, and she's really sticking to that trail now. So now I know that trail, that spacing worked really well for this time around. And I'm just going to see if she comes back to the trail to pick up the rest of the pieces, and she does.
Right.
So that's showing me that she knows if she goes back to that trail, she'll get that remaining food. Now, as she progresses, I will not allow her to do that. She's going to have to move one single straight line from start to finish. If she doesn't get it, we walk off and start from the beginning. So now I lay another one. Now keep in mind that we're using kibble. So this is half her daily portions for the day of kibble. So she's receiving half her daily food through training on just this one session. But that's going to build that food drive into tracking. But I use the water because it infuses well with the odor. It lasts forever. You see here, we're going on 10 minutes and the spray is still there. It's still saturating the concrete, and we're working on concrete, not starting on grass or dirt like most people do. So here she's really excited, so I try to walk her back, and I want her to get it on her own. So there she goes. She gets it. She's still kind of hunkering that left side a little bit, but she's moving straight. She's moving forward. She's leaving a few pieces behind, but this is progress. Very nice first session.
Yes. Oh,
and here I have the reward. I want her to be a little bit more motivated, and I give her a quick little tug session, and then I tell her to place.
Good girl.
This will build nice focus and drive on some dogs. Some dogs, it'll kind of overstimulate them too much, but I'm going to test it out on her to see, because this is the first session. I want to evaluate what works, what doesn't, so that way I can alter my training to fit her needs. So I'm laying another track while she's on the cot with the tug, because I want this to be fun. I want this to be exciting. She's a nervous dog. With new things, sometimes she gets a little skittish. So I want her to understand that when we're working on new things, it's fun, it's rewarding, it's exciting. And that's what we're doing here. Now, in later sessions, as the water evaporates, that odor still remains, okay? But for beginning dogs, I will relay the water track, which you'll see me do here in a little bit. But for more advanced dogs, I'll spray it, and then I'll let it age to where it's just barely there, barely visible. We'll do 1 or 2 runs, and then I'll let it completely evaporate, and then I'll lay a track again and watch them follow the odor scent. And usually by then we start to remove the treats a little bit to where they're just following odor. But right now all we're working on is that nose down behavior. I want her to keep her nose down. She reaches the end before she gets too distracted and turns back around and goes back up the trail. I give her a quick reward, remind her this is fun, this is exciting, and then I let her go back to her place command. And she tries to go back to the treats there, but I just call her back and place her. So now I'm going to space them a little bit farther apart, because my end goal is to have just, 1 treat every foot, then 1 treat every 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, start to finish. Because I want them to develop that nose down behavior, to stay on that odor from start to finish without the treats. And then once they can start doing that, we can start moving to grass, to dirt, to gravel, things like that. So here I start her back, bam, she's picking up exactly. She's starting to focus, and she's starting to straddle it more now that, back right foot starting to touch the spray. Her head's moving back and forth. She's really staying on that odor. And this is all in the first session. And I'll continue doing this until either A, I run out of the portions, or B, she starts to lose a little interest. Because I want this to end on a good note. I want it to end on an exciting note, because next time I lay a track down, I want her to look forward to it. Say, I know exactly what this is. So when we first started off, I was laying the treats every 4 inches. Then I had to put them about every 3 or 2 inches. Now I'm up to about every 6 to 8 inches. Getting there at the very end, I get up and I rattle the food to get her attention. I call her over, and then I point and tell her to start. And off she goes. She gets a little distracted, and that's fine. This is the first session, so I just re-guide her back over. And off she goes again. Pulls back off, gets a little confused. She's starting to forage, but I want her to learn she doesn't have to forage. She doesn't have to try to find, drop food elsewhere. If she just stays to the odor, she will get what she wants. So we had 3 or 4 or 5 good sessions, and then this time she kind of messed up a little bit, so now I know I need to shrink them back down to 4 to 6 inches. So this is all an evaluation game. The spray is starting to evaporate a little, so I'm going to lay another line down, another bead. Because with a beginning dog, I want there to be a lot of odor. I want them to know exactly what we're doing eventually. So here all I'm doing is just spraying right back on top where I sprayed earlier. And since she got a little distracted and kept peeling away, I wanted to resaturate everything, make it fresh, and then put the rewards a little bit closer together to keep her focused. And we only have about 1 or 2 more tracks left, and I want to end it on a good note. So here I rattle the cup, get her excited, and then I pour a little on the track to where she'll eat, stay a little focused, nom nom nom, and then off she goes again. She gets to the end, I call her back over, and she's not straddling the line like I would like her to, but what do you expect for the first session? I'm going to start laying treats down again. I rattle it to get her attention, to get her excited. Get her at the beginning of the track. She's a little too excited, so there I go. Point, and she's getting the idea. And off she goes. And starting to straddle. She's quick on this one.
Good girl. Place. Here.
And then I call her off.
Place.
We do one more here. Give it a rattle, get her attention,
Are you ready?
call her over, lure her, and off she goes. So not the perfect ending to the day, or to the session,
Good.
but it was
Good
fun, it
girl.
was exciting, she's starting to pick up, she's starting to focus a little bit,
Good.
and that's absolutely perfect. That's what we're going to continue to work on. So, one last one to see how she'll do. Toss the leaf out of the way. Another rattle. She comes. And here, I didn't even have to lure her. She runs directly to it. Straddles nicely. Moves straight, head down, continuous motion. Perfect ending. So I want to give her a good reward for that because she did it exactly the way I wanted to. We have a quick little tug session, and that's it.
Now, at the end of the station, or at the session, there's some food left. So I have these 2 bowls, which you should have seen in my previous video about the odor conditioning. And this bowl is a solid bottom bowl, and this bowl I drilled some holes in. Now, in here I have some Q-tips that have been soaked in odor, okay? Now, this odor can be any type of odor. It can be narcotics or something like that. If you're doing a deer dog, you can do deer blood on some Q-tips. Okay, so whatever odor you have, you can saturate it. What I tell people, if you're doing deer dog, then get a bunch of Q-tips, put them in a jar, put a couple drops of deer blood in there, put the cap on, shake it around, and throw it in the fridge. And then whenever you're doing training, you can pull a Q-tip out and do this. So the Q-tips are in the bottom of this bowl. I take the bowl with the holes and just stack it right on top. Now the leftover food, I just dump in there and go on, Ada, eat. And now that odor is permeating up into the food, into that bowl. So all the time that she's eating, she's inhaling that odor. So every bite that she's taking, she's conditioning herself to that odor as well. So I say do this for 6 weeks. Use the odor conditioning for 6 weeks at a minimum. If you have a dedicated dog to narcotics or deer tracking, then you can continue this forever, however long you want. But at least 6 weeks straight to really condition that, create it, muscle memory, and odor discrimination. And then later, on the dog's life, you can just do it every now and then. But every bite she's taking, she's classically conditioning herself to that odor. Good girl.